For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Dr. Nika White, the founder and lead principal consultant for NWC, and we are thrilled that you have decided to spend this window of time with us today. We know that your schedules are busy. We will keep the meeting really tight, but we are super excited about the information that we're going to share with you today. And so once again, I'll just invite you, if you have not done so already, to go to the chat. Let us know where you're joining the conversation from. Specifically, it's always great for us to be able to know maybe the organization that you are representing today. And then we'll certainly have an opportunity throughout our time to be able to engage with each other. And so I really look forward to that. So that we don't belabor the hour, I do want to go ahead and get us started. I want to share just a couple quick thoughts with you. First and foremost, cameras are encouraged. We love to see smiling faces at NWC, but certainly if you have to have your cameras off for reasons that, maybe personal to you, we certainly respect and honor that as well. We're just glad to have you here in whatever capacity. Also want you to please remain on mute during the first half of our conversations. We will be mostly sharing with you, but then we will invite you to unmute yourself and share as we engage with each other around a couple prompts that have been some really good engagement opportunities for each of us as we're learning with and from each other. The chat is a way for you to extend, of course, the sense of community that we want to create here today. So if some questions come up before our designated Q&A at the end, certainly want you to take to the chat to place those thoughts there so that you don't forget them. And we will be sure to make sure we answer all those questions. And so this meeting today is being recorded. Don't let that at all inhibit you from really leaning in. This is only because we have had a number of individuals registered for our last and final information session around Unravel the Knot experience that were not able to make it today. And so we committed to recording this session so that they can have the information firsthand. Okay, so with that in mind, welcome again to Unravel the Knot, an Inclusion Uncomplicated Learning Experience information session. Let's go to the next slide. I want to do a couple quick introductions as we join in today. And there are multiple individuals on our team that have played a role in helping us to get to this place where we can launch this amazing immersive learning experience. And so I just want to introduce those who are with us today. You're going to hear from them. And so I won't necessarily pass the mic on, but just know that you will be hearing from them later today in our conversations. So I have joined with me Cosette Strong, who serves as our Senior Director of DEI Strategy Design. Thanks for waving, Cosette. And Cosette actually is the co-facilitator, along with myself, of this immersive learning experience known as Unravel the Knot. We also have here with us today Courtney Perry. She serves as NWC's Director of Business Development and Strategic Engagements, very much instrumental in helping us to bring this opportunity to organizations, including hopefully many of yours. And then last but not least, while not pictured here today, she certainly has been really instrumental and will play a part in helping us to manage and coordinate all of the logistics that are part of the Unravel the Knot experience. And her name is Amora Carter. She serves as our executive coordinator. So thanks, Amora. Really appreciate you being here. So with that said, we wanted to keep this meeting tight. And so the best way to do that was to put together a video that we're going to present, which really helps to uncover what is Unravel the Knot all about and how exactly is it going to help our organizations to get stronger, better in terms of our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So at this time, we're going to play the video for you, and we look forward to coming back with additional information.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nika White, founder and principal consultant of Nika White Consulting, NWC, and author of Amazon #1 bestseller, Inclusion Uncomplicated, a transformative guide to simplify DEI, published by Forbes Books. I have just one question for you. Is your organization ready to unravel the DEI knot? Unravel the Knot, or UTK for short, is an immersive learning and development experience inspired by my newly released book. I want to give you a sneak peek into what this experience entails. But first, let me tell you why I wrote Inclusion Uncomplicated and why I'm so passionate about bringing the Unravel the Knot learning experience to your organization. DEI is viewed as overwhelming and downright confusing, in fact, leading to resistance and a lack of meaningful progress. DEI is complicated, but it doesn't have to feel that way if we demystify it, leading to mindset shifts and behavioral change. If DEI continues to be viewed as daunting, complex, and unattainable, it will negatively impact our ability to realize equitable society where success and belonging are within reach for all. Without a collective shift in how we relate to one another as humans, without the willingness to recognize our personal biases or withhold assumptions and sit with the discomfort, systems of oppression will remain locked in place. But if we center on ways to uncomplicate DEI, the entry point for more people to engage effectively increases. We need to change how complex many people perceive DEI to be, so that the entry point for more people to engage in the work of belongingness increases significantly. The UTK learning experience gives cohort members space to go deeper into the foundational practical tips and tools, helping them actualize DEI personally and within their organization. This learning experience is so richly curated that it can only be experienced as an explanation doesn't do it full justice. But here to give you a bit more insight as to how the Unravel the Knot experience will help simplify DEI and provide supportive, actionable tools to encourage a roadmap for leaders, champions, and DEI changemakers so that they can create lasting impact and transformation to make a real difference right now. Along for the ride to help us untangle this knot is my friend and colleague and co-facilitator of this learning experience, Cosette Strong, Senior Director of DEI Strategy and Design. Take it away, Cosette.
Thank you, Nika. Part of setting us up for success as we endeavor together to unravel the knot is educating ourselves fully, learning more about the why behind DEI, and making sure we're equipped with models, frameworks, and tools to support creation of actionable strategies. To help us on this road together, our Unravel the Knot experience will be powered by 4 distinct behaviors. The first, be intentional. The second, look for evidence to activate the journey. The third, create space. And the last, educate and elevate. These behaviors are relevant, timely, and will serve as a strong container to aid us in our journey toward actionable steps to take in unraveling our knots. But that's not all. In addition to our 4 unique behaviors, the experience is designed in such a way for you to learn in ways that have been customized for your own growth and development. Through group discussions, immersive micro-learning experiences, periods of self-reflection, and journaling, you'll have the opportunity to dig deep into the content and think through ways to apply your learnings. These application points, these behaviors, are so tangible and simple that you can implement them the moment you go back to your professional spaces. And the bonus, you'll navigate this experience with a cohort of peers who are on this path with you. We are wired for human connection. We are made to work together. And if we all view the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion as something we're collectively accountable for, we'll go further faster. May we commit to doing our part to simplify the complex work which begins with each of us. May we commit to letting go of the tug of war that only tightens the knot. May we commit to getting to the center, because that is where we begin to unravel the knot that binds humanity together. May we commit to perseverance, not giving up or quitting. May we commit to doing our part to unravel the knot.
And there you have it, Unravel the Knot, an inclusion uncomplicated learning experience. It will only have a limited number of offerings this year. So if this sounds of interest, don't delay. Reach out to us today to learn more about how you can bring this opportunity to a cohort of leaders in your organization.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that video and for your attention. I want to lead us into an opportunity where we would love to hear from you about some of the challenges perhaps that you are experiencing. And then we will further the dialogue around the course composition and a bit more detail as to what the expectations are from this experience. Cosette's actually going to lead us in this next segment. So Cosette, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Nika. As we were reflecting on the book and all that, Nika was hoping for when sharing the book with you, we started trying to put ourselves into your shoes as people who are in this diversity, equity, inclusion space with us doing this good work. And I started thinking about, the wins that we all experience as part of this space and the challenges that we all experience. And so that's really the question that led us to start thinking through this Unravel the Knot experience. And so I'd love to hear from you, what wins and challenges are you experiencing in your organizations around DEI?
And you can use the raised hand feature, or you can just simply, we're kind of small and mighty today, so you can simply just unmute yourself and share your wins and challenges.
Hi, this is Meg Brown. I'm with Perkins and Will. We've been on the DEI journey. We actually have elevated it. We're now calling it justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. And Nika also helped us in the very early days to get our program started, which was very, very helpful. So I'd say 11 years later, we have had a lot of wins, especially in terms of representation of females in leadership levels. But we still have traction that we need to gain with people of color. So we have become pretty adamant with our studios. We're a design firm. We have 2,500 people that to develop action plans, to develop a talent from within. In the architecture industry, only 2% of architects are African American, as an example. So that means that not only do we recruit externally, but we have to build a benchmark build our talent bench from within. We also are taking the angle with our people about how this is important, not just for our firm, but it's important for our clients. And I'm kind of the belief that no matter, however I can get people, to the well, that's how I'm going to get people to the well. So even though I'm in human resources, I pay attention to marketing, and I pay attention to things that are out of my purview technically, but I'm able to share some data to say, here's what clients are asking us for. And finally, we are advocating, and we're much deeply more involved with our communities and helping our local communities with a lot of pro bono work. So I think that's expanding our relationships. Where I do think that there has been challenges, and maybe other people have felt this, is who would have thought 2 years ago with COVID at its height that people would have been laying talent off. And then we're at a precipice this past year where nobody can find enough talent. And people are so anxious to find anybody to do work that it kind of has taken them away from other things around culture and and community involvement and those types of things. So layered on top of that is the hybrid workforce, which also brings challenges on connecting with people, where we've all gone from Zoom to now we're back in studios, but we're not back all together. And I do think that hybrid working is important, but I do think that you do lose some connection with people when you're just not seeing them face to face. So I know that's a lot of detail, but it's kind of where we are at and where we are going. We are Nika had started out with some unconscious bias training. We are upping that, advancing that by hiring a learning and development director who partners with our Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion director. But because she comes from a training space, is able to facilitate training in a meaningful way to help capture those hearts and minds.
Awesome. Lots of good insights there. Thank you so much, Meg, for being here and for sharing a little bit more about what's going on at Perkins and Will relevant to the DEI work. Just leaving space and time for others. So feel free to unmute yourself and share regarding the prompt of wins and challenges.
Guess I'll share. Cars Corn, BMW manufacturing. A lot more challenges than wins at this point. We're at the genesis as far as setting up DEI. Surprisingly, at a facility at our size, over 11,000 associates. But our challenges, I guess, in some ways are unique because the diversities go just beyond the normal diversities. We also have geographical things to consider too. So we're a German company that is placed all over the world, which involves China plants, Mexico plants, South African plants, and here in America as well. And then bringing all those into one spot and getting everyone to agree, obviously, on the needs and diversities there can be challenging. Also, success is a challenge. You know, if you've been operating for so long with no major issues, people tend to not look at it as being as important as some of the other things. But if you look at, you know, the way things are shifting in our society, what the next, well, not the next generation, this generation is looking at, how they're looking at which places they're wanting to work or continue to work at. Those things are really important. I think the numbers of 3 and 4 are looking for diverse companies to work for. And then my particular challenge is I'm only responsible for the education piece of the so I don't hold the whole initiative. And so trying to work in tandem with our director of diversity, who has that as a job as a second. So we don't have a designated diversity officer. Kind of makes it challenging as well. We're pushing through, just trying to focus on the tasks that we have to try to at least educate our workforce on the importance of DEI and how it applies not only to the world, but particularly in our work environment.
Great. Thanks so much, Dr. Horace. We appreciate you being here and sharing your insight. Just leaving a bit more space and time, but would love to hear from maybe 1 or 2 more before we move on.
Hi.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead. That's fine.
I'll make it quick. Just a few notes that I made. One win is we did just recently, Meg's comment on unconscious bias training reminded me that we just had our first corporate unconscious bias training, which is great and well received. And I think it's a win also. I just started working with Packlet Milliken April 2022, and I'm the first Latina that we've ever had in our office, which is a great win. And I work closely with Andrina Powell-Baker, who is our director of DE&I and communications. And we are both minorities, which is great. One of the challenges that I find that is probably our most specific challenge is we are such a small business of between 30 and 35 people. And the positions that we hire are so specific. So trying to pull from the candidate pool for these specific jobs is very slim, especially when considering minorities and things like that. So that's definitely something we're working on. We're trying to integrate more entry-level positions so that we do create space and opportunities for those who may not major in the positions that we're trying to fill. So
Awesome. Thank you, Elisa. I think I heard someone else trying to chime in as well. Want to give you an opportunity?
Yeah, this is Tanya Woodbury. I'm with BNY Mellon. We've actually, well, I just joined. I haven't made it quite a year yet, so still understanding their journey. But the things that I know for sure that we have been working on, we are in the midst of a 3-year representation goal, which was publicly communicated. So we're working through the end of, this is the last of that coming up in October. We've seen a lot of work in our representation from a talent perspective in our early talent space. And we also have some pretty good, not pretty good, we have a really good board representation from a diversity perspective on Wall Street, which is our industry, not just traditional financial services, but more of the investment bank cohort. We are now looking at refreshing our DEI strategy. We have 4 pillars. We're looking at those pillars now and expanding those pillars to be very inclusive. Just as one person, Meg mentioned how they changed their name, adding justice at the front end. We're looking more around, because we're financial services still. So being a little bit more prescriptive around our community inclusion as far as social engagement, anti-racism, and what would be considered social justice. So those will be strong terms that will be new for this organization. So we'll see how that goes. And then the other part is because we've worked a good bit on incorporating our talent practices to have a DEI lens around, whether it's hire, whether it's our pay equity studies, things of that nature. We're being a little bit more deliberate of going outside of the talent range from a DEI perspective and making sure that we're communicating a business message. Our CEO has been using the term commercial for us as an organization. So now DEI wants to tag along with that commercial part and letting businesses understand, what does DEI mean operationalized. Right. And so it's not just the supply diversity part, which is, I have a supply diversity background coming into this DEI role. But also, what does it mean thinking about our business products and services? So we have a investment product called Bold Shares. And it's actually shares that our clients can invest in that actually go to the Howard University Hope Scholarship. And so it's looking at how we engage our communities and our stakeholders from a DEI perspective into what we can provide to those that small bit of client business, because we're an institutional bank. So we're more operational. We're mostly fiduciary. So we don't have checking accounts. We don't do those kind of products. We do have a wealth management space. So so we have to work really hard at finding those other areas where we can incorporate DEI across the lens, but still with a focus on our representation goals, still with a focus on our organization and our culture. We're doing a lot around our inclusive culture, and we're doing a lot around looking at our EBRG framework and programs, and some of the ways the EBRG can be an extension of our DEI journey and our strategy. So
nice. No, that's great. So for the sake of time, we are going to move ahead. If there are others who did not get a chance to share, if there's some things that are coming up for you that you wish to socialize, I do encourage you to use the chat. But I do want to take a quick moment just to level set us on some of the synergies and the commonalities that I heard from the 4 individuals.
Dr. White,
yes,
I just want to say our chat is disabled. So if anybody puts anything in the chat, thinks I'm not responding, I can't see the chat. So
okay,
financial services,
we appreciate you
chat.
alerting us of that.
So I just want to let you know.
That's totally fine. We appreciate you alerting us of that, Tanya. So I'm so glad that we had a chance for you to share, since you're not able to really engage in the chat. But there's a lot of synergy around what some of you shared. And as we were really being thoughtful to curate this learning experience, we were also drawing upon our experience working with all types of clients, different industries, different sectors, and understanding what some of the challenges were that they were experiencing, as well as what were some of the opportunities they wanted to be able to tap into. And so, Meg, I heard you loud and clear when you said that we're in a space right now where representation of people of color is really hard. So we have to be incredibly intentional. Just the normal day-to-day practices are not necessarily going to move the needle for us. And so I heard you on that. I also heard you that right now, with the war on talent being such a big issue that so many people are putting priority around, that other elements of a culture and, really just having that level of inclusivity and belongingness into the work environment may sometimes not be as prioritized. And so that's something that we have to keep in mind. Then not only that, but the distributed workforce and what that looks like is now many people are returning back to the actual physical workspace. And so we're hearing a lot of that. Paris, you talked a good bit about the fact that you are in a position to where you are very specifically responsible for DEI education, but you also have to make sure that you're finding some strategies and some ways to be an influencer of other stakeholders who play also in the DEI space to make sure that the broad spectrum of the work is done most effectively, and that can be hard. Also the situation of being an organization that is global, right? And so there's a lot of additional complexities that can come when we consider all the many different dimensions of diversity within a global organization. Elisa, from a Milliken perspective, Pacolet Milliken perspective, it's a small organization, so there's limited hiring opportunities. And when people begin to vet and assess whether or not an organization is really moving in an effective way around its commitment to DEI, oftentimes representation of the workforce is what they look for. So I certainly can understand how the optics is something that creates a challenge. And we do hear that from a lot of our smaller organizations, especially those who are in spaces where the positions are very specific and not very well represented by those marginalized identities. And then Tanya, you shared so much. I love the fact that you all are really at a place where you have really matured, it sounds like, in some of your DEI work, but you're really looking to go to the next level. How can we catapult ourselves to the next level to go deeper in this work, to make sure that we are engaging all of those right stakeholders and communities that we want to connect with? And I heard the word you used was, how can we refreshen this work to make sure that we are identifying those pathways to garner some additional momentum? Because sometimes the work can grow stale, right? We can get to a point where we can become very complacent. And so I think that it's great you all are thinking about ways to keep that energy level up. So I'm sure there's probably a lot more that we could have talked about, but for the sake of time, we're going to keep the conversations moving. And so I'm going to yield the floor back to Cosette, who is going to talk now a bit more in depth about the timeline and how this, day and a half experience really can help address some of the challenges and the opportunities that many of you have expressed. Cosette.
Thank you, Nika, and thanks to all of you for sharing and bringing that little bit of vulnerability and that authenticity to our space. As Nika and I have been partnering on designing this, those were some of the things that I've been keeping in mind as we've been creating and customizing and curating this experience, the customized strategies to integrate DEI into day-to-day operations, being able to provide participants with a safe space to focus inward. We believe that, starting with the mindset is how we think toward our behavior. Interrogating, what have my socialized experience has been that, I think this way, I'm behaving this way, it impacts our behavior, and that influences our ability for DEI work or JEDI work, as I like to call it as well, to progress throughout the organization. How do we allow people leaders, people in this space, to incorporate tangible ways to create that belongingness for themselves and others on their teams? What tools and strategies do we need to provide so that we can be proactive in being in this space and doing this work? And so while we've talked about this co-created experience and this customized experience, there are some structural elements, some containers that we have kind of put around this experience. So I'd like to just address that briefly. For our timeline over the 1.5 days, we will start with a kickoff, and I like to call this the alpha, the keynote from Dr. White herself. And then we will go into our content modules. 1 and 2 will happen before the break or before lunch, and then 3 and 4 will happen after that break. And then we will go into rest and relaxation. That could look a number of different ways, depending on how you want to customize the experience. For day 2, we will welcome everyone back. I'm a big fan of the welcome back, talking to people about, what resonated with you most from day one. Who did you talk to? What did you talk about? What is kind of spinning around your brain space as you've been processing some of the things that we did on day one? And then for module 5, we will have application. We will put it all together, all of the tools, all of the frameworks, all of the strategies, all of the models. And how do we apply that? Things that we can take today, day 2, leaving from here, and integrate those things into our workspaces immediately. And then, of course, as a send-off, keynote send-off from Dr. White, which I like to call the Omega, just really bringing us all together and giving an inspirational message to send us off and have us re-enter our spaces. Our course composition has also been thoughtfully curated. Each of the modules, and I'll go into a little more detail in a second, but each of the modules contains at least one of these elements. A group module is included with all of the content. That is when there will be some teaching and facilitation from Dr. White and from myself. There's also an opportunity for journal entries and reflection. I believe that it's not enough to just, read things and hear things, but also start thinking, what do I really think about this? What perspectives are new that I've heard? What perspectives are being confirmed or affirmed? And how do I really think about those things so that I can launch off toward applying them when I go back to my workspace? We will also have micro learning experiences. As a former teacher, I'm a big fan of the kinesthetic learning style. And so there will be opportunities for people to, have something tangible to work with to help really confirm their learning. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then the last part, which will be a portion of every module, is called Act on It. These are some tangible behaviors, some tangible things to do. Oftentimes when we're working with our clients, people will say, okay, yes, I understand that. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for talking about this research, this theory, this model. What do I do with it? And so as part of our modules, there will be some tangible aspects for people to go back into spaces and bring some innovative new things to do as part of your DEI strategies. I spoke in the video about these behaviors that will power this experience, and I'd like to give you a little more information about those. The first is be intentional, and during this module, we will share some foundations of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging work. We'll talk about composing your DEI story. What does that look like? Narrative is a powerful driver, as we've talked a little bit today. It's a powerful driver for doing this work and doing it well and engaging deeply with others and connecting with them as part of this space. And so what is your DEI story, your why, and how can you use that to motivate and inspire and encourage others to join you? For the second, look for the evidence to activate the journey. During that module, we will explore identity. We'll talk about what that means. We'll explore different types of intelligence, cultural intelligence, emotional intelligence, lived experience intelligence. We'll also start to explore bias, what it is and what it isn't. In our third module, Create Space, we will delve into mindfulness. How can we be more mindful? How can we show up and be present for ourselves and for others as we are navigating this work? We'll talk about covering from Kenji Yoshino and how that shows up in our spaces, how that can undercut psychological safety as well. And then in our last content module called Educate and Elevate, we will learn about debiasing techniques. We will learn about inclusive communication and how to use these tools to be better in this space and to be more upskilled and prepared for going deeper in this work. As I mentioned before, we will have some course materials to just help support our learning, and the participants will not leave empty-handed. So the provided materials include Dr. White's book, a branded journal and a pen, an Unravel the Knot workbook that everyone will have the opportunity to take notes in if they want and take it with them as an artifact from this experience. There will also be additional materials to support the learning journey. So now I'll turn it over to Courtney to talk about the process.
Thank you, Cosette. And yes, we are super excited again to bring this opportunity to any organization. And I know all of you have heard all of this and are like, okay, so how do I get it? You know, what does it look like? What are next steps? How do I, go about bringing this experience to my organization? And the process is very simple. For those who have engaged with NWC before, you know that we take a very custom approach to any of the work we do. So the first part would be to schedule a discovery call with myself so that we can really align around objectives and goals for your organization to ensure that the experience is meeting the need that you have already expressed or that would really bring some great added value and impact to those that are a part of this experience. We would also spend some time ensuring that we are going over logistics, that we're talking through some of the best case scenarios. Of course, we have kind of a structure to this event. Cosette spent some time going through the timeline. We have, of course, materials that we have already designated as a part of this. So we would definitely spend some time kind of going over what that looks like and proposing to you the ways in which we think that this experience can be maximized. That may be, discussing venue options, that may be discussing if you should have food, that may be talking through some of those options for the rest and relaxation piece, if that is a mixer, if that is offering a dinner where the speakers would be available to, have a deepened opportunity to go further in engagement with those who are participating. We would also be discussing dates. And so we have gone ahead and proactively held dates throughout the rest of the 2023 calendar year with our most earliest dates being available in May. That would be the first week of May, the 2nd and 3rd, or the second week of May, the 9th and 10th. But of course, we have dates secured, like I mentioned, throughout the rest of the year. And these dates that we are holding ensure that the experience is delivered in the way that it was designed, which is a co-facilitation format. So that would have Dr. Nika White and Cosette both facilitating the entire experience. If for some reason the dates that we have secured do not work for your organization, we can be flexible to offer dates that would better align, but please know that that may not be able to have both Dr. White and Cosette facilitating those sessions. While we'll do our best, we cannot ensure that like we can with the dates that have already been secured. So we really encourage leveraging the dates that we have held. But again, because we always like to take that custom approach, we are open to discussing if there needs to be some deviation. All right, and I'll turn it back over to Cosette, who will discuss what to expect.
Thank you, Courtney. As part of the experience, I want to just socialize and highlight all that you will get when you book Unravel the Knot, this experience. So the price point includes a 1.5-day experience for up to 50 people, 2 master facilitators, Dr. White and myself. The materials that I mentioned earlier to support and amplify learning and learning sustainability, the branded journal and pen, a copy of Dr. White's book, the workbook that I referenced earlier, and a certificate of completion. While this is not a certificated program, we do want participants to feel accomplished. We want them to feel encouraged. We want them to have something tangible, an artifact, in addition to the other things that I talked about, to leave Unravel the Knot with that says, you went through this, you did this, you are now upskilled, you have more tools in your arsenal to go deeper in the work within your organization. Back to you, Courtney.
Thank you, Cosette. And as a special offer for those who have taken time out of their day to join this live Q&A, we understand that requesting an hour out of anyone's day, especially now, can be daunting. So we are very appreciative that you have taken the time to hear us out on the super exciting experience that we've been working on. We are offering $1,000 off for those who sign up for any dates within the 2023 calendar year before the end of April. So whether that is the dates that I mentioned in May or a date in November, as long as it's within the 2023 calendar year and that it is signed up, everything is finalized by the end of April, which is this month, we are offering that $1,000 off for the entire experience. So I will put my information in the chat, which will be my email address. I am happy to connect with anyone to talk further, and really have an opportunity to speak one-on-one about what this would look like for your organization specifically. And then I think over to you, Nika.
Great. Thanks so much, Cosette, and Courtney for really centering us around some of the details that are really pertinent to the Unravel the Knot opportunity. I want to, before we move into the Q&A portion, while my colleagues are actually going to place into the chat, and Tanya will make sure that you get this, because we know that you don't have access to the chat, but they're going to place there a document, which is the FAQs around the Unravel the Knot experience. We certainly will want you to spend some time reviewing that. It's probably going to address some of the curiosities perhaps that are coming up for you. But I do also want to make sure we spend time today. If there's something that's coming up immediately that you need some clarity around, that we can certainly try to address that. While perhaps you are thinking of some immediate questions that you want to socialize around, let me just share and round out the conversation so far by sharing a couple final thoughts that are really top of mind for me. One of the reasons that I wrote Inclusion Uncomplicated is because I have come to understand that resistance is often a lack of clarity. So I truly believe in the depths of my soul that if we can help people to gain clarity around diversity, equity, and inclusion, justice, belonging, what those terms are, what they mean, not only just in theory, but in practice, then I think that the entry point for more people to engage and to accept ownership and accountability will increase. So how do we solve for it there? We have to demystify the work. And so again, resistance is a lack of clarity. We want to make sure that we make this work really practical for people. The next thing that I will say is that as a practitioner in this space, as a learning architecture, as someone who's really into instructional design with a great bit of experience, myself both and Cosette as master facilitators, we have come to appreciate that not all DEI training is created equal, if you will. And I say that because we are confident in our strength in this area of work. At NWC, we don't even like the word training. Training to us sounds like a destination, which is why we have labeled this as an experience that can be built upon so that the learning continues even far after the convening of this day and a half experience. The last thing that I will say is I'm hearing a lot about how organizations are really hungry for what I refer to as the stick-to-itness factor. It's that endurance factor that oftentimes organizations are challenged by. It's like, we've done this other activity, but it doesn't seem to be sticking to where now we are able to really realize the full impact of all of the efforts that we're putting forth towards this broad work of DEIBJ. And so I went into this process, Cosette and I both went into this process being very thoughtful about how do we change people's minds to where then the behavior change will follow. And what I have come to realize is that that takes us not only appealing to people at the organizational level, we can put policies in place all day long, but they have to first get it at the personal level. What I love about this experience is that it weighs both of those equally. And I think that that's going to really be a game changer for those who find themselves maybe stuck or really wanting to drive towards some greater momentum and traction to get to the next level. So with those thoughts in mind, hopefully I've given you some time maybe to think of a few questions, and I would love to just open it up for those questions. And so feel free to unmute yourself and share right now. But while we're still
It's hard to come
continuing.
up with questions because you were so thorough.
Oh, well, thank you, Meg. I do appreciate that. I also think that FAQ document is going to be a great resource as well. Here's one common question that I do think is probably important for us to spend just a moment or two on socializing around, and that is, who is this experience intended for? And that answer can vary based upon each organization. We have had a lot of organizations to say, I really want to first and foremost center and ground our key leaders, our executive leaders with this type of experience and information because of the belief that, of course, it's going to trickle down. And that is a really good, opinion and perspective. Oftentimes we do encourage organizations, so as they're launching some type of learning experience around DEI to begin with leaders. I also think there's great value into considering the folks who are leading, maybe the BRGs, the ERGs, or even like maybe those who serve on DEI councils or committees. They're referred to in different ways in different organizations. And then thirdly, I am a big fan of not leaving out middle managers. When I think about how many individuals sometimes are touched broadly, it's usually those middle managers that are more so touching those individuals. And so I think there's multiple ways to think about how to identify, the 50 cohort members. There are some instances where people really value smaller quantities within these sessions, and it does make a difference in terms of the experience. And so they'll say, you know what? While we know that we can go up to 50, we have 25 key leaders that we know for certain that we want to be a part of this experience. And so I just wanted to put that into your hearing in case it helps you as you continue to think about perhaps how this could find its way of value into your respective organization. So I'm seeing some folks having to drop off, which is absolutely fine because we are towards the end. And so if you do not have any questions and you do need to jump, then we want to just thank you again for showing up. You will receive an email from Courtney. Well, she will provide, of course, the attached FAQ document that's placed into the chat, as well as just some immediate next step items that you may want to have top of mind to be able to secure this experience for those in your organization, if that's of interest to you. But otherwise, we're happy to stay on for a few more moments to address any questions or comments.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much,
This is
Tanya.
Tanya.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you so much. I have to drop off.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Meg. I mean, I think
Okay.
with that, it seems like we have done our job well in providing this information. So I don't think that anyone has ever complained about getting time placed back into their day. And so again, thank you all so very much. Enjoy the rest of your week. We look forward to being in touch with you soon. And we appreciate your interest. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.